Right, so the basis of this tutorial would be just to get you to get to know PipeMaker a little bit better. I'm going to use a short line, just a section going from the pump to the next line, and I want to just bring the basic concepts across. So you right click, activate section, and just click on the section you want to view. Okay, because we haven't done any designs on it, it wants to apply a basic design, so we'll just say okay for that now. I always forgot about the friction. Let's just change that and place it in. Right, so now you can see I'm going uphill. Immediately you're going to say, well, I need to put in air valves. So if you go to data, design defaults, you can see you can assign air valves to different patterns, or patterns to air valves. So you go to edit, and you'll see there's a pattern name called air valve. Just make sure it is set to the available pattern. If I say OK, that associates the two. If I click edit again, you won't see the association, but it has been applied. So then I'll just go to G valve for gate valve. So I'll say edit gate valve, and I'll do the last one, scour valve. Alright, so that's been applied, and now I need to go to my data, and you will basically go to fittings, and then it just gives me an option: must the low and high points be defined automatically? So we say yes, and then it automatically comes up and it shows you at which peg distance you have an air or scour valve scenario. We'll see the type refers to to this section here. So type 0 is nothing defined, so 1 would be air valve. So I'm going to just put in a 1 there, 1 there, 1 and a 1. A scour valve is number 3. So I'll say 3, 3, 3 and 3. And then the base is where the pattern should be drawn or shown on the pipe. So 2 is top of pipe, 0 is inward level of pipe. So I'm not going to change it, I'm just going to leave it as is. And you'll see little markings everywhere where there's a low point or a high point. So you won't really see the drawings. You will see at the bottom of this graph, you will see the descriptions appearing, any position where that was applied. Furthermore, you will see you have your titles on your left hand side, and if there's something that falls outside of the design defaults, in other words going to data, design defaults, these grades here, so you have your minimum slope, maximum slope, minimum cover, velocity, minimum maximums, you can set that up, but it basically colors whatever is outside of the defaults in red, and you change your design until you get rid of the red. Now for grades it's not that important on water pipelines, but on sewage and stormwater that is important. So some people on water decide that they'll switch it off. Currently the static head, well, going into negative, so we have to add some pressure at our pump, and maybe even more pressure to come later on when we do the rest of the pipeline. This is a nice short line just to get you through the basics. There's no flow at the moment because we haven't defined any draw-offs. The pipe description, that's just what's needed for the contractor to know what to build. So you can see it's 160 diameter class 12 pipe all the way through. And then there's some reference points, which could be any name. I'll talk about that in a moment. And your actual slope distances of all your pipes. So if you I could have used 12 meters. So in South Africa we buy our PVC pipes in 6 meter length, so 12 meters or 24 would have been a good length to use for the positioning of nodes. Now this design can be tweaked. If I go to data pipe design, you can see here on each interval I have an invert level, and if I change these values I'm actually changing the design. I can put in some head there. Let's say I want to add, make it 5 meters, and we're not drawing off any water at this moment. Maybe the last node we're drawing off how many pivots are going to run at the same time. Let's say 60 liters per second for now, and say okay. Just recalculate everything, and then we go to our plot parameters, and this is where you switch stuff on and off. So if you want to see your dynamic head and your static head, if you have bedding material, you can sorry, this is your bend information. That's those little values that are written there to say if it's a vertical bend or a horizontal bend, and by how much in degrees. Alright, so it will tell us for construction purposes that this pipeline is going to bend upwards or downwards or to the left or to the right. The pipe grades, service, if you have service crossings, pipelines crossing your pipeline, they could have just been other strings with names called pipeline or power line or telephone cable or whatever. If it's strings and they're named like that, they will appear on this drawing, and you can set how they should be marked or where. Alright, so I'm not going to go into too much depth there. The titles on the left, you set it here, long section titles. So if I, for instance, don't want to see the grade, I can just switch it off and say okay. So now the grade is removed. Okay, so you can see my dynamic head is actually really messing with me right there. My static head's not good enough. Probably some friction losses happening. So I'll go back to my design. Maybe add another 5 meters into that. Looks a little bit better, but not good enough. So the draw off is 60 liters per second. So let's make that 30. See what happens. Okay, so the graph obviously adjusts itself. Right, and you can play around with this till you're happy. If you're going to start playing with pipe diameters, this is how it's done. You go to data, pipe design, and you could say from node 1 to 34, so we'll say change range. We want to change the pipe diameter from 1 to 34 to maybe a 250 mm pipe, and say OK, and recalculates the whole design. So there my friction is also improved. Let's go back to our head. Let's make that 10 again. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Right, now obviously if you've done a hydraulic design with Area Maker in Model Maker, you will have much better control over your pipe diameters, and you will have to just mimic those diameters. Now we're in the process of trying to implement a automated conversion from irrigation pipes to a string that can be used in Pipe Maker, so that you don't have to go and fiddle and change the pipe diameters. It could all be automated. I'm still working on the guys to develop that for us, but it is a slow process. They need some more convincing, because at present we're only doing this for you. I'm trying to please you, so I'll work hard and see if we can get it there. Alright, so at the bottom of the screen you can do various things. Let's say I want to do a alignment of a certain grade, so you can put in a grade value and it will grade the whole pipe according to this. That's not what I want to do right now. I actually want to do a line, Sorry, that's not what I want either. I think that's the one I'm wanting. Yeah. So if I press this grade button, you can put in a grade, or you can pick 2 points on the screen. Let's say I want to grade between those 2 points like that, and all the nodes will be readjusted according to that grade. Now, again, this is a water pipeline, so you probably won't do that. So to rectify that, I just said that because we're using this for stormwater and sewage, wastewater as well. So that's some of the tools, but there's a lot of tool sets down here. You can pick up any position, it'll tell you information about that position. Alright, let's just go and fix that which I've just broken. So go to pipe design, and I do this way, going to pipe design and then design defaults, and if I say okay, now it reapplies that whole logic, like starting from the very first position. Let's make this 12-meter intervals and recalculate everything. Alright, go to my data, just check our fittings, make sure everything is still set up. You can actually clear that and rerun that as well. So we go to data, fittings. Okay, there's a few more. Right, so I'm just gonna put these in quickly so that you get the idea of the final result. So the whole idea of PipeMaker is to create a construction drawing that you can then give out, and the pipeline can be built by contractors. Alright, so you won't see patterns, but they are allocated and set up properly. And just on that point, if you go to your Windows Explorer under PipeMaker, under your .mm systems folder, in your settings folder there should be pattern files, scour valve, G valve, air valve. Make sure that those patterns are also in your systems pat data folder. They should be in this same folder. Now this is another thing we're working on at the moment, where you can just say send to Model Maker, and the CAD section that you've just drawn and worked on will be put into Model Maker automatically. The developers told me they will work on that, but for now we have to do it manually. So you would just go to Output, to Model Maker CAD, choose your paper size, long section. Your scale dictates pretty much if it will fit onto one sheet or many sheets, but you can split it up. So there's a lot of settings and stuff that you can put on the sheet or on the section. You just have to give it a name. I'm just going to call this Richard 1. And then I'm going to go to Model Maker, and I'm going to say File, Open, and I'm going to go to KCD. There's my Richard1.kcd, and I'm going to tick this tick box and add to the existing CAD that's there, and just go freehand and just put it in there. Switch on the CAD and just zoom into that. Let's zoom right into those valve positions, so you can see there's an air valve and there's a scour valve, and those are the patterns that I just talked about. Alright, and you can also create your own patterns. I actually wrote an article on patterns and how to work with patterns. Let's just show that to you quickly. So you would go to my website, MMS Design, go to support and go to tutorials. So in here there should be one for creating patterns. There we go, create your own CAD patterns. You can download that tutorial, should help you a lot. Right, so that's the end of section number 3. Right, so the final step in this process would be to calculate some volumes. So to do that, obviously your whole design should be done. Your diameter should be applied. You can work with your static head and your dynamic head, determine your draw off. You do all of that under data pipe design. Right, so this is quite an important part of a design. Once that is done, you go to calculations, go to quantities. And you can go through this slowly, but for now you can determine your excavation depth categories in linear meter or in volumes cubes. And as soon as you do that, we have 2 standards in South Africa. I don't know if COLTO is international or not, but SABS is definitely South African. That's the South African Bureau of Standards. And then you can go to your depth option and you can say, I want to price this thing in half meter or 1 meter or 200 mil intervals. And I know that the pipe laying or pipe construction companies charge differently for different depth categories in placing those pipes. You will also see, if you go to your data design defaults, there's a trench width option here, and where you can have 3 different options. Width defined by a pipe diameter range. So this is what it looks like. So you can say from 0 to 700 mils in diameter, there should be a trench 300 mils each side of the pipe. Or you can work in a depth range, or you can work with a fixed width. Right, so it's just different ways to define your trenching. And then the topic on COLTO or SABS 1200, just go in there quickly. If we click help here, it's quite useful. You click on that. It explains how the excavation depth categories works. Right. So you can read through this slowly. It's actually quite self-explanatory. Right, but once you're done, obviously you can just hit OK and it will come out with a report. Now in this case it's all zeros, which is not the desired result, so I just have to find out what's going on in here now. Okay, generally that would give you your volumes. Let me just look at my data design defaults. I'm missing something very elementary, or there's a bug. If it's a bug, it will be fixed tomorrow. So I go back to plan view. Okay, it seems it's a matter of using the same node description, so I'm just going to change that quickly. I'm just going to call this PI 2. Right, so we go to quantities. So don't call your manholes the same name. Keep it unique. Right, so there we have a nice volume happening, and you can print a report and do your quotation accordingly. So if you want all of that to be done in one go, you have to start in Model Maker where the whole string is one long string. Obviously you cannot have branches off the pipeline. So if you want to do it from the start to the end, you have to literally have one string all the way through. Right, so that should get you started. I think it's enough information for now. If you have more questions, please do contact me and I'll see where I can answer it as good as I can. And once again, thank you for watching, and thanks for being patient with me. It's been a rough month with all the specials happening. The people are keeping me crazy busy. But I'll talk to you again. Cheers.